into the link. Okay. Share the screen first. So still I cannot share the screen. If I am given the access to share the screen. Management needs to give me the access to share the screen. I can't share the screen with the students at the moment. Okay, now it's okay, I suppose. Yes. I will just remind you what we were doing. Suppose you can remember them before we go to today's lesson. We'll just remind what we were doing actually. Okay, suppose you all can see the screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we started the subject languages and linguistics. Okay, so and these are the topics under chapter 1 actually. Out of these topics, some of the topics we completed last week. For an example, how many languages are there in the world? Does the United States have an official language? What is human language? Signs, arbitrary and non-arbitrary. Language and pattern structure. Speech as pattern language use. Okay, if you can remember, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 topics we completed last week. Okay, so today I am planning to cover another 6 topics. I will show you what we did, how many languages are there in the world. Okay, so then we discussed there, it is nearly 6,000, 7,000 languages are there in the world. And then we discuss when it comes to United States, actually United States, they do not have a particular language as state language. And then we discuss, show you the slides. Okay, here. Does the United States have an official language? We were discussing that question. And then we got to know United States does not have an official language. There are many more languages used by the people in different states. Okay, I'm just reminding. Okay, English only, English plus multilingualism. Under that, we discussed lots of things. And then we came to the topic, what is human language? Okay, then we got to know there are 3 phases in a language system: meaning, context, expression. Okay, then we discussed them. Then language, mental and social, arbitrary and non-arbitrary language. Okay, all these things. Okay, now I am going to start an extension of the same topic. There are 6 more subtopics. We'll start them today. Okay, here. Language and linguistics, languages and linguistics, same topic. We will continue. We are still with the chapter 1. Okay, did you go? I could not share the slides with you all. I spoke with Mr. Rishad, and then he told he can share, the management actually can share the slides with you. I promise you, after today's lecture, I will be sharing the previous slides and today's slides with you all. Okay. Okay. And now this is what we are going to start today. Okay, just read for, do you have anything to share with me? Any idea? Any suggestion? Okay, if not, you can read this. Okay, when you finish reading, you just tell me. Okay, there is a message. Okay, finished. The origin of languages, babble to babble. Okay, so then the term babble, it came from the word babble. Babble actually, it's about origin of languages, which is related nearly to 14 languages. And from one language, all these languages started. Okay, but anyway, to make this title more attractive, it has been used, the origin of languages, babble to babble. Okay. Most of the people believe that the origin of language can be traced to the Garden of Eden. What is that? Any idea about Garden of Eden? Where can we find it?
The heaven, I guess.
Sorry?
Heaven.
Heaven, okay. So then I don't know about your religion. I can understand there are Islam students, and then Sudisha, I suppose she may be a Buddhist. I don't know. I don't know whether Christians are here in this classroom. So this Garden of Eden is related to Christianity actually. And you might have heard of Adam and Eve. According to Christianity, they have a story about the origin of the earth. And Adam and Eve, they are considered as the first man and woman in this earth. And because sometimes I think even Islamic people may not trust it 100%. Even we Buddhists do not trust it 100%. There may be lots of differences. It's okay. So according to Christianity, the God created a man and a woman, and he put them in a place called Garden of Eden. Okay. So when people talk about the origin of language, they think the origin of language also goes back to the Garden of Eden. Okay, even among people who may give little credence to the story, just like no other religious people in other religion, non-Christians, they may not believe in this story 100%, but even they may get little credence to that story. Even they may feel there may be something truth in this, like that. Many are persuaded that language originated in a paradise where its pristine form was logical and perfectly grammatical. Okay? So then when we talk about the origin of languages, there are people who believe that language originated in a paradise, Garden of Eden. And that language was very logical and perfectly grammatical. The belief is widespread that with the passage of time, languages that were once pure have become contaminated with impurities, illogicalities, and ungrammaticalities. Okay, don't take these things very seriously. These are about the stories of origin of language. Are you confused? Are you confused? Silence says lots of things. There's a message. Okay. No issue. No, hi. Okay. So then some people say origin of language goes back to the history about God, somewhere around Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. And originally the language created in the paradise, it was very pure and it was perfectly grammatical and logical. But later it contaminated, contaminated. It got bad influence from lots of things like impurities, illogicalities, and ungrammaticalities. So now we cannot see a pure language anywhere in the world. Okay, because one language came to the earth, it was pure, and from that language, there were many languages coming out. They are not pure. Okay. So then original language got contaminated because of impurities, illogicalities, and ungrammaticalities. Some examples. And I told you that this subject is interesting actually. So there are no theories and there are no formulations, nothing actually. This is just like history. So there are lots of information, just like a story. You have to read them and then you have to jot down some important information. I told you about having short notes. Okay. When you finish reading, tell me and then I will explain. Okay, finish reading.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Impurities, pure. Impure, im, it is a prefix and it gives the negative idea. borrowed words such as American okay and French disco, which have spread into many other languages and made them less pure. We will just ignore this, and you can understand there are lots of borrowed words in English language. And are you aware, very recently, one Asian term went into English language. Are you aware what that term is? And we can say it's a Sri Lankan word. What is that? Any idea about it? Nearly 8, 9, okay, maximum maybe 1 year. I'm sure it is not even 1 year. The word is Ayyo. And you know the term Ayyo, and we Sinhalese say Ayyo. You Muslims, you may say Ayyo. Even Tamils will say Ayyo. Indians, they say Ayyo. Now, Ayyo is an English word. It has gone to Oxford Dictionary. Okay, so like that, there are words from different languages in one language. So language is not pure anymore. Okay, that is impurities. And then illogicalities. You know what logical? Illogical means opposite of logical. Logicalities, double negatives are commonly cited English example. Okay, we use double negative. Here is the claim. Example, just as two negatives yield a positive in algebra or logic algebra, it refers to mathematics, science. Okay, double negative, positive. In Sinhala we say rina rina dana, something like that. Okay, it's not untrue. Think of this sentence. It's not untrue. What is the meaning? It is true. I am not unwell. That means I am well. I don't want none. Should logically mean I do want some. Okay, double negative, can you understand? When we talk in English, sometimes we use double negative. Actually, it's illogical. Why should we use double negatives when we can use the affirmative form? Okay, did you get the idea? Illogicalities. I did nothing. Oh, that's okay. But I never did nothing. If somebody says like that, so why that person is telling, I never did nothing? I did something. Illogical. Some terms, some grammar rules are highly illogical. Another example, I will give you some simple examples. And there was a time that a sheep, okay, sheep, S-H-E-E-P, sheep, singular form and the plural form, both are sheep. Is it clear? Okay, so then it's illogical. So then book become books, pen become pens, then house become houses. But then why? Sheep is sheep, even in plural form. That's illogicalities. So there are lots of illogicalities in languages. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then one more. Impurities, illogicalities, ungrammaticalities. Okay. The personal pronoun I, in just between you and I, and him and me, as subjects in the sentence, him and me were friends in the army. It's wrong. That means we can say he and I were friends in the army. That's correct. But if somebody writes him and me were friends, it's not grammatically correct, but people use like that. Some people say my father, mother, my brother and me went there. So I have heard some people talk like that. It is wrong. My father, my mother, my sister, my brother and I. there are some ungrammaticalities. Okay, because of impurities, illogicalities, and ungrammaticalities, languages have become very, because they were pure, they were not anymore, they are not pure anymore because of impurities, illogicalities, and ungrammaticalities. Okay. This is for your knowledge. You just read, we'll discuss. Okay, finished. Very good. Yes. No. It is not to say finished. Okay, hi. Okay, so then just read them. Okay, it seems you have finished reading. Okay, we'll see. Yes, okay, finished. As well as having different views on the origins of languages. So there are different views about the origin of languages. People have different ways of explaining why languages differ from one another. So now we know one language is different from another language. Sinhalese language is different from Tamil language. Tamil and Sinhalese languages are different from Hindi languages. So people explain reasons for these differences, why they change. The Old Testament means the old version of the Bible, relates that before the Tower of Babel, actually all these things are related to biblical literature. Okay, you know, they are not real things. They are literature actually. Biblical literature means a literature related to Bible. Even in Buddhism, there is Buddhist literature. You know, Jataka Katha. So they are actually Buddhist literature. Hindu literature is there. Okay, there are literature. The Tower of Babel is the tower in biblical literature which connect earth and the heaven. Tower of Babel. All men and women spoke the same language and could understand one another. So as soon as God created man and woman, or men and women in this world, they all were using one language and they all could understand each other. Eventually, finally, human pride provoked God into confounding their communication with mutually unintelligible tongues. Okay, so then after some time, God noticed human beings are very proud. So as a punishment, he gave mutually unintelligible tongues. So actually God created different languages according to biblical literature as a punishment. According to this story, language differences among people can be seen as a penalty. Penalty means punishment for sinful behavior. Yes, sinful behavior, sinful, you can understand, bad behavior. And you know this, the story about Adam and Eve. God created Adam and Eve, and then there was a garden full of fruits, Garden of Eden, and he asked God, Adam and Eve, not to eat fruits from forbidden tree. You know these stories. Similarly, Muslims believe that Allah spoke to Muhammad in pure and perfect Arabic, with the Quran embodies. Okay, so the Christians believe God created men and women, and he, as a punishment, he created different languages. That is how Christians believe. Muslims, they believe Allah spoke to Muhammad in pure, perfect Arabic language, which is there in the Quran. Okay, that is also a kind of literature. By contrast, the varieties of present-day Arabic spoken in the Persian Gulf, North Africa, and elsewhere are seen as deriving from subsequent human weaknesses and culpability. Culpability means a punishment once again. But now, the Arabic language used by Persian Gulf, North Africa, and many parts of the earth is not the same Arabic language. There are differences. Okay, that's what it is said. And then both these beliefs are same actually. God created many languages as a punishment. At the same time, as a penalty, the Arabic language, language used by different countries, that is not the same. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Okay, the word different, it is, it should be together. Okay, sorry. Hi, now, okay. Okay, did you read it? Okay, finish. Yes. Okay, what we learned earlier, that was related to literature of Christianity and Islam religion. Professional linguists take a different approach, but linguist means the people who study languages. They have a different approach to the origin and the expansion of languages. They see the multiplicity of languages as resulting from natural change over time. The inevitable product of reshaping speech to meet changing social and intellectual needs, reflecting contact with people speaking other languages. So these professional linguists, they say there are different languages as a result of natural change over time. Because people's needs change, what they talk, the different subjects, they change. So then accordingly, there were different languages. When groups move to new places and mix with speakers of different tongues or settle areas with unfamiliar plants and animals, the language must adapt to new circumstances. Long time ago, when people were living in Stone Age even, they were moving from one place to another place. When they move from one place to another place, they meet new people, they see new things, new plants, new animals, so new vocabulary came. Like that, language changed. Meeting people who use unfamiliar artifacts and hold different views and encountering unfamiliar aspects of nature invite speakers to adapt their language. Okay, so then the unfamiliar environment and the nature also help people to adapt their language, change, alter their language. As a result, languages evolve differently around the globe. Okay, so then if this is tough to understand, I will explain it in a simple way. Okay, so then nearly 10 to 20 years ago, the computer, it was not very popular among people. So then most of the terms that we used, even in any language, Sinhalese, Tamil, computer terms, they were not there in the past. For an example, delete, upload, reload, all these things were not there in the languages in the past. So these new terms came as a result of new product, new human needs, like that. Okay, so for an example, password. Okay, so just imagine what will happen to you even accidentally if the language of your computer or mobile phone change into your mother tongue. Oh my God, we can't understand the instructions. But if it is in Sinhala, obage murapadaya atul karanna. Murapadaya is the Sinhala word for password. Bhagata karanna. Bhagata karanna, he said download, I can't remember. So then these new terms are very common in all the languages due to the development of computers. Okay, we'll see some more. You finish reading. Okay. Next. Still, what is more striking, what is more heart-touching, what's more exciting than linguistic differences around the globe is the extent of similarity across languages. Actually, now, just a while ago, we spoke about dissimilarity, differences among languages. Okay, at the same time, there are similarities among these languages. The differences are apparent, differences are very clear. The similarities more subtle. The similarities are not that clear, but they are there. But any similarity should not be surprising because after all, every language must conform to the character and abilities of the human brain. So we need not to be surprised about these similarities because language is the result of our human brain. Of all the conceivable kinds of language structure, only a relatively narrow band exists among the languages of the world. Actually, the differences are demarcated with a narrow band. So there are some similarities and there are some differences. That should be the conclusion actually. Okay, I will go back to the topic. Okay, here, the origin of language, babble to babble, that was our topic. So here you got to know there are different viewpoints about the origin of a language. Some are literal definitions, that means related to literature. And then linguistic, they say there are different languages, multiple languages, that is with the pass of the time. And then here we came and we got to know it is true. There are lots of differences among languages. At the same time, there are similarities also. Okay, that is the conclusion. We'll go to the next one. Okay, read language and okay, read about language and dialect. Is it the topic? I don't know. I want it. Okay, that is the one. Language and dialect. Okay, finished.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, are you still reading?
Finish, ma'am.
Okay, finished. Okay, it doesn't matter. You take your time to read, no problem. Language and dialect. So that is another topic. So this subject, as I told you earlier, contains different topics. So as I told you that day, it's better to write down these topics because earlier you could not do because I did not share the slide. So after today's lecture, you can do it. Write down the topic and understand what is under that, and then have your own note, something like a short note. Then you will be okay. A particular form of a language that is peculiar to a specific region or social group. So that is a definition about a dialect. A particular form of a language. So it is a particular special form of a language that is special to a special region or social group. So that is dialect. So in Sinhala we call Pradeshiya Vivahara. I suppose there are Muslim students here. I believe you can understand Sinhala to a great extent. Am I correct or wrong? Unfortunately, I don't know Tamil language. Because when we were studying, Tamil language was not compulsory actually. At least now students are learning Tamil up to grade 6, up to grade 9. Yes, madam, we can understand. Okay, very good. I know through my experience. That is one definition. A dialect is a form of a language spoken by a smaller group. Okay, another description about dialect. Sometimes I don't know. I have to have a look at past papers. I have never seen past papers under this degree program. Recently, I joined the program. So I will go through certain past paper questions. Okay, dialect is, in case if you get a question regarding dialects, you should know these things. A dialect is a form of a language spoken by a smaller group. Someone's accent is a part of their dialect. So in Sri Lanka, within Sri Lanka, we can understand dialect very easily. And you know, the language used by Kandiyans, I mean Sinhala language, Sinhalese language, Kandiyan Sinhala, and Southern Sinhalese language that is totally different. Even in Kurunegala, Anuradhapura language is totally different. Kandi people, they will say Kanta, Bonta, Yanta, Inta, like that. And Anuradhapura, Kurunegala, people will say Kanda, Bonda, Yanda, the sound. And then southern side, another language. So their language cannot be understood very easily if you are not familiar with that actually. So that's a dialect. And there are nice jokes also regarding dialects. Okay, so then dialect is a form of a language spoken by a smaller group. Someone's accent is a part of their dialect. From their accent, we can decide from which area this man came from. In this way, sometimes someone's accent can show where they are from. Yeah, that's what I told. So then people from Ratnapure, they will say Hattile, oh my God. Instead of that, they will say like that. And then southern people, to talk, they will say Dodanava. Dodanne. Dodanne means there is no orange. That's not the meaning. Dodanne means a person does not talk. It's totally different language. Some examples of dialects include standard dialect, Southern American dialect, African American vernacular English, and Appalachian dialect. Okay, so they are certain dialects of the English language all over the world. Okay, that is that. Did you get some idea about dialects?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
Yes,
some more,
ma'am.
some more. Yeah. This is something like a conclusion in the sense the general truth about dialect. Okay, you finished. Some people seem to believe that only other people speak a dialect. Oh, sorry. Slide change. Sorry. But I don't know, something happened, but in my area, power cut. Something happened in the many office, I suppose. I can't share the slide yet. And maybe power cut or something like that happened at the host end actually. We have to wait until, okay, now I can share the slide. Okay, we are back once again. Okay, so then I was talking about my experience of making fun of dialects. So then sometimes the person, some people, they don't from that end. Okay, we'll see. Okay. Okay, some people consider their language is not a dialect, but what others talk it is a dialect. Instead, they think of themselves as speaking a language or even the language. The truth is that everyone speaks a dialect. For an example, a person from Anuradhapura will consider they are talking Sinhala language, but those who are from down south, they speak a dialect, but it's not. So we all speak a dialect. American English, it's a broad area, Australian English, British English, they are national dialects actually. And everyone also speaks a regional dialect. In that sense, all the languages of the world, they become a type of dialect. Anyone who speaks a dialect of English speaks the English language. Okay, so then we talk in Sinhalese language. Indians talk in Indian, the English language we talk, that is Sri Lankan English. English language Indians talk, that is Indian language. You might have heard the R pronunciation R. It is very common in Indian English pronunciation. They say we are going to an Indian airport, like that they speak. So that's their English. And anyone who speaks the English language can do so only by using one of its dialects. So we speak in English, but we speak a dialect. British people also speak a dialect of English language. Okay, so it's not something to be ashamed, like Javenna hetuwak නෙමෙයි. So we all speak dialects of English language. Okay, what is the source? Up to this, is it clear? Now you got an idea about what is a dialect, and then at last you had an understanding. We all talk a dialect of English language. And we say British English, British people are the owners of English language, like that we think. But they also talk an English dialect. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Clear.
All right, next, what is the social dialect? Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. So this is also very interesting. This is also inside the broader area dialect. So this is social dialect. Sometimes two people who speak the same language can almost be unintelligible to one another. So even sometimes they are imagine two persons. There are two persons. They speak the same language. It may be Tamil or Sinhalese like that, we'll think. But even then, they cannot understand certain things. This is because they are speaking in different dialects of the same language. A dialect is a form of a language unique to a particular group. Dialects can vary based on several factors. There are several factors for having different dialects, such as where the person is from. Sometimes the geographical region can be a factor to have a separate dialect. And also social group like social classes or occupations. It is called a social dialect. Okay, normally when we talk about dialect, we talk about geographical reason. But other than geographical reasons, there are other social reasons like a social group, social classes, occupations. I'll give you some fine examples. You know, fisherman community, Divara Janatav, fisherman community. So they are having a separate dialect. Sometimes we will not understand anything they say. And then once again, we'll say occupation wise, the language taught by nurses, doctors. And there are certain things we do not understand, and that's very familiar to them. And those who are there in the army, so what they talk, there are certain things we do not understand. They will say ambush, artillery, lots of terms. And then sometimes university students, they have a subculture and they have a different language. And what they speak inside the university when they talk with friends, an outsider cannot understand. So that is a social dialect. And those who are going to a particular profession, job, and we'll say masons, then carpenters, their language is somewhat different. Okay, so the language of beggar community is different. Language of the people who are living in very comfortable environment. Sometimes we say Kurduat, Kalambu 7, like that. So they are another social group. I don't know the present situation of Kalambu 7, but in the past people say like that. So that is a social dialect. In social linguistics, social dialect is a variety of speech associated with a particular social class or occupational group within a society. Also known as a socialect, group, ideolect, and class dialect. They are synonyms for social dialect. And think about a community living in slums, we can Muduk community living in slums. So they are having their own social dialect. Those who are farming, those who cultivate, they have their own dialect. Those who are going to garment factories to work, they have a separate dialect. And the beggar community, they have a separate dialect. So that is social dialect. And the lawyers, they talk separate things. So that is their dialect related to law. Okay, I suppose you got an idea about social dialect. We'll go further. Hi. Okay, now we are going to discuss. So then now we talk about different languages and then we talk about different dialects. Are they two different things or the same thing? Different languages or different dialects, which is correct? Okay, just get an idea. Did you read?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Different languages or different dialects. The Romance languages developed from the regional dialects or Latin spoken in different parts of the Roman Empire. Okay, so there are different Roman languages developed from the regional dialect of Latin. So there are many languages developed from Latin language. Those dialects eventually gave rise to Italian, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanian. Actually, later, with the time, those dialects which started with Latin language, they have now become languages, national languages. For an example, Italian language, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Romanian, those are the countries, and they use those dialects as their national language. Now, the distinct languages of independent nations, now the languages used in these countries, Italy, French, Spain, Portuguese, Romania, they are not dialects. They are considered as independent languages, but they were originally dialects of Latin language. While these tongues may share certain inherited features of grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary, the nationalistic pride taken by the Italians, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Romanians supports the view that they speak distinct language rather than dialect of a single language. Actually, there are some similarities between the languages in these countries: Italy, French, Spain, Portuguese, Romania. There are some similarities. But because of the national pride, Italians have the pride, we are Italians. French people, they have the pride, we are French, like that. Because of this national pride, now they are considered different languages. Otherwise, they are not considered today as dialects of a single language. The opposite situation characterizes Chinese. And the situation in China is different to this. Okay. So what we talked earlier, it was about the dialects of Latin language, but now they have become independent languages of certain countries. But see what has happened in China. Not all Chinese dialects are mutually intelligible. For example, speakers of Cantons and Mandarin can't understand one another. So in China, you know, the biggest world population, they have different dialects. And then two persons talking in two dialects cannot understand each other. But situation is different in our country. So when it comes to Sinhala, Canadian Sinhalese language and Southern Sinhalese language, that is different in pronunciation and in certain terms. But still, a person from Kandy and a person from Mataragol, Hambantota, they can communicate very nicely. But in China, it's not like that. So two persons talking two dialects cannot understand anything. But speakers regard themselves as sharing a single language and highlight that unity with the shared writing system. So in China, there are many dialects, but they all consider they are talking one language, which is very famous as Mandarin, because they have one single writing system. Okay, so that is something different. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If it is not clear, you have to disturb me and ask. Huh? Okay, finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Whether two varieties are regarded as dialects of one language or as distinct languages is a social matter as much as linguistic one, and the call may be influenced by nationalistic and religious attitudes. Okay, very lengthy sentence. We'll understand it in a simple way. Whether two languages are dialects or one language, it is a matter of social matter. It's a social matter. Okay. Hindu, one example is there. So then you can say they are two languages, or you can say they are two dialects. We'll say there are two languages like XY, or you can say XY, they are dialects, or you can say XY, they are languages. All these things depends on social matters. Okay, one example. Hindus in northern India speak Hindi. We know Hindus in northern India, north part of India, they speak Hindi. While Muslims there and in neighboring Pakistan speak Urdu. Okay, Muslims in northern India and even Pakistan, they speak Urdu. Opinions differ as to how well they understand one another. Okay, sometimes they may understand each other. Hindus and Muslims, they can understand each other. Until a few decades ago, Hindi and Urdu constituted. That means they were included in the constitution. One another. Okay, officially, Urdu and Hindi, they were named as different languages. Until a few decades ago, Hindi and Urdu constituted a single language called Hindustani. Until recently, Hindu and Urdu, they were constituted. Officially, they were named as a single language, as two dialects came from single language called Hindustani. And the fact that professional linguists wrote grammars of Hindi, Urdu reflects a judgment that the two varieties required only a single grammatical description. Okay, so then those who have written about these two languages, they have noticed the grammatical structure of Hindi and Urdu, that is the same. Naturally, with the passage of time, Hindi and Urdu, whose different names proclaim that their speakers belong to different social, political, and religious groups. That's very clear. Hindi language became the language of Hindus who believe in Hinduism. Urdu became the language of Muslims who believe in Islamic religion. So that is a social religious matter. Will become increasingly differentiated, as did the Romans language. Okay, in the earlier slide we discussed these languages used in Italy, French, Spanish, Spain, Portuguese, Romania. The language originally came from Latin. The same way, Urdu and Hindi both came from Hindustani, but now they are two different languages. Okay. Another one. What is standard variety? Now we talk about different languages, dialects. So is there something called standard variety? And even in Sri Lanka, there was a time, the education system and even the people, they believed British English is the best. Okay, so when a person is wrongly using English language, they started using killing the queen, Rajina Maranava. That means damaging English language, because we worship British English in the past, but not now. Okay, read this and understand something. Okay, you finished reading, we'll understand. Yeah, done. What is standard variety? No single variety of English can be called the standard. Okay, now according to common acceptance, according to modern trends, no language can be called standard. After all, there are different national standards for British, American, Australian, and Canadian English, among others. Okay, so furthermore, at least with respect to pronunciation, there may be several standard varieties of a national variety. Okay, but as a whole, we don't say it is a standard language. But inside the language, when we think about pronunciation, there may be some standard varieties. The simple fact is that many varieties of standard English exist. Okay, the simple fact is there are many varieties of standard English, not only British English. Indian English, that is standard. Sri Lankan English, standard. Canadian English, standard variety, like that. What then is meant by standard variety? Okay, so there is something called standard variety. What is that? We could identify as standard the variety used by a group of people in their public discourse. Okay, that standard variety of any language, it can be seen in public discourse, public appearance like newspapers, radio broadcasts, political speeches, college and university lectures, and so on. Okay, in Sri Lanka, we'll see Sinhalese language or Tamil language, standard Sinhalese or standard Tamil language is available in newspapers, radio broadcast. That is also questionable nowadays. We can't see standard Sinhala or Tamil in these private radio channels. And then political speech, just that is worst in Sri Lanka. But college and university lectures, okay, we can see in such instances standard variety of languages. In other words, we could identify as standard the variety used for certain activities in certain situations. For an example, a speech done at national festivals, standard. Or for an example, speech done in a wedding, standard. Alternatively, we could identify as standard the variety that has undergone a process of standardization during which it is organized for description in grammar and dictionaries and encoded in such reference words. Okay, so standard language is with reference to dictionaries and reference books. Okay. We'll see. Still we are with the standard variety. Okay. Okay, read this part also. when you finish reading, at least put a message, then I know you have finished.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, an important point to note about any standard or standardized varieties that it does not differ in linguistic character from other varieties. Okay, so then easy way that we can understand a particular language is the standard variety is that it does not differ in linguistic character from other varieties. Okay, linguistically, grammatically, it does not differ from other varieties. So it is the common one. It isn't more logical or more grammatical. Nor is there any sense in which it could be said to be linguistically better. Okay, so then standard variety could be said to be linguistically better. On the other hand, it is certainly true that for some purposes, use of a standard variety is very useful. Okay, so earlier we told that all the languages are equal. There's no something called standard. That is correct. But at the same time, there should be something called standard, because there are reasons. For an example, when we write a book, we have to use standard language, because then people around the world, they will be able to read it. I mean, in English. If you write a book in English language, you have to use correct grammar, standard variety, then only other people can read it. Okay, we'll see. Okay, with this part also. Okay, you have finished reading, we'll understand it. Is there a right and wrong in English language? So that is the question. So then there are different ways of writing, there are different ways of pronouncing words. So we should know whether there is something called right and wrong. So what is your opinion? Do you think that there is something called right and wrong? Okay, we'll see. Are there right ways and wrong ways of saying and writing things? Okay, the simple meaning of this headline is, topic is, whether there are ways of saying and writing things correctly and wrongly. Of the two spelling, Of the two spellings, honor and honor, which is correct? So what is this difference? What is the difference between these two honors, as you know? The difference.
One honor is respectful.
I'm sorry, I'm having cough actually. What is first honor? HONOR honor? Any idea? It is just like COLOR color, COLOUR color. What is the difference here? HONOR honor, that is American spelling. HONOUR honor, that is British spelling. That is the difference. Color is also same. COLOR color, American. COLOUR color, British. TER center, that is American. CENTRE center, that is British. Okay. So sometimes when you type in computer, when you type honor, HONOUR, it will be highlighted with a red color, because most of the computers, they were made according to American way, actually, maybe in America. In pronouncing schedule is Canadian schedule or American schedule, right? Okay, so then there are three different ways of pronouncing schedule. Should the break between theater acts be called an intermission, as on Broadway, or an interval, as in London's West End? Okay, so sometimes, not sometimes, when we watch a movie, in the middle, we can see on the screen intermission or interval. Which one is correct? You all have watched movies, even on your laptop, even at home when you watch movie. Sometimes we see intermission or interval. Which one is correct? And according to this, actual intermission, that is as on Broadway, interval, yeah, Americans, and interval, that is London. But when we watch a Tamil movie, Hindi movie, we can see both, but most probably, I suppose, intermission. Americans, Canadians, and Britons may prefer their own expressions or their own pronunciation. Yeah. Okay. Americans, Canadians, and Britain may prefer their own expressions of their own pronunciation, but depending on who and where you are and what you want to accomplish, that means what you want to achieve, any of these alternatives may be appropriate and correct. Okay, so according to this, actually, we can't say honor, HONOR is correct, or honor, HONOUR correct. But that depends on your target, your achievement, or what you want to achieve, and all these things. If you say schedule in Detroit, you will likely identify yourself as Canadian. If you say schedule in Toronto, you will identify yourself as a Yankee. These are some communities. Similar differences exist within a country. And even in Sri Lanka, we have noticed some people love to use British accent. And you know, some TV channels, radio channels, they introduce some American accent like grand finale. Okay, so you might have heard dancing star. So these are American accent. So it's okay, because if you love to follow certain accent, certain thing, that means you prefer. Okay, so then similar differences exist within a country. So inside the country, then you see most of the people from southern side, Gaul, Matar, Hambantota, when they come and settle in Colombo, they forget their dialect, southern dialect, and they shift to different accent. Because when they are in Colombo, they want to appear or they want to use the common language. It depends on your decision. Otherwise, we can't say this is correct and this is wrong. But remember, still in Sri Lankan education system, students should write, when they write in English, they have to write according to British way. I don't know why. It's okay. Even I am asking you to write in British way, because there's no rule that we can use either American or British, because Sri Lankan education system, it was introduced by British people. So still we are following British way. So at the exam, if you write HONO honor, your language teacher will underline it as wrong spelling. Even I will do the same. I know that both spellings are correct, they should be respected, but still in Sri Lanka, in the system of education, we have to follow British English spellings. Okay, pronunciation was also like that in the past, but now different pronunciations are accepted. Some more.
Okay, madam.
Sorry, okay. One way in which varieties of English differ is their rules. You may not understand this very clearly because we inside Sri Lanka, we do not have different varieties of English. Other than that, actually, we all use the same grammar rule. But in English, England or in English countries, they may notice this. And different rules lead to different structures. It isn't reasonable to judge the sentences permitted by the rules of one variety as ungrammatical simply because they don't follow the rules of another variety. I suppose you can understand what I told you, because in Sri Lanka, we all use same grammatical rules. But for an example, in America or in England, there are different varieties of English. And sometimes these varieties are based on different grammatical structures. Are permitted by the rules of one variety as ungrammatical. Yeah. So then some people who use one variety will think the grammatical structure of the other variety that is wrong. By that logic, any expression permitted in standard American English but not in British English would be ungrammatical. So then there's something called standard American English, maybe the language used in American newspapers, American books, and American radio channels, news bulletin, like that. And that grammatical structure may be different from the grammatical structure of British English. So American people may feel British grammatical rules are wrong, vice versa. Or sometimes British people may feel grammatical American English grammar rules are wrong, like that. Because languages rely essentially on arbitrary signs to accomplish their work. We discussed this last week. Arbitrary means we don't know why a dog is called dog, why a tree is called tree. And there are no logical connection between the word dog, dog, and the real dog. There is no justification for claiming there is only one right way of saying something. So in this world, there's no something called one right way of saying something. There's no one correct way of saying something. There can be many possible ways of saying the same thing. From a linguistic point of view, there is no basis for preferring the structure of one language variety over another. Okay, so it's not ethical. It's not correct to decide one structure of one language is better than the language of the other variety. Judgments of illogical and impure are imported from outside the realm of language and represent attitudes to particular varieties or to form of expression within particular varieties. Okay, sometimes so we have borrowed things from other varieties. That's right. Judgments of illogical and impure are imported from outside the realm of language and represent attitudes to particular variety or to form expressions with particular varieties. Often they represent judgments of speakers group rather than of speech itself. Okay, so sometimes the people say grammatical structure or the way of talking of particular variety is wrong. Actually, this judgment is there to highlight not the idea is wrong, but the condemn a particular group of speakers actually. Okay, just imagine in society we know rich people are there, poor people are there. and there are people living in slums, there are beggars. Okay, so just to condemn people like that, if they have something called one variety is good and one variety is bad, or one variety is correct, one variety is wrong, like that. Often they represent judgments of speakers. Actually, if we say the language used by slum people is wrong, it's not the language actually. It's the people, that community is wrong. That is our opinion. And we think educated people are good and their language is good, something like that. So then these these beggars, they are not good, so their language is not good, something like that. Okay, otherwise all the varieties are equally correct. We can't say this variety is correct, that variety is wrong. There's no such things. If we say this is correct and this is wrong, that is actually targeting at the community that variety is used. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go further. Lots of information is going to your mind within a single lecture. Okay, so then according to the instructions given to me, we are supposed to conduct nearly 4.5 hours for this subject per month. So then I suggested to put this 4.5 hours within 2 days. So that is why we will continue today till 9:30. Otherwise, we have to continue it for 3 days. I suppose covering this time within 2 days is better for both of us, even for you and even for me. And see how many slides. There are many more slides. Okay. Okay. Modes of linguistic communication. Okay, read that. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, okay. Modes of linguistic communication. Linguistic means language communication. Modes means methods, ways. Okay. In Sinhala we say krama. There are 3 basic modes of linguistic communication corresponding to different modes of perception. You know what perception, how we look at something. Oral communication relying on the use of speech and hearing organs. So when it comes to oral communication, it depends on speaking and hearing. Writing, a visual representation. The writing is always visual, and sign language. A visual or tactile representation. Okay, so then oral communication is based on speaking and hearing. Writing is based on visual representation, and signing, signing, you know, sanketaatmaka. Signing, it is a visual or tactile representation. Visual means something that we can see. Tactile means something which we can touch. Okay, we'll see what it is. So then there are 3 modes. That is actually writing, speaking, and signing. Okay, we'll see. You will understand them later. Okay. Writing. One mode is writing. Okay, read that. Okay, finished. Okay, we'll understand this. Writing. You know what writing is actually. Long before the invention of writing, people painted stories on cave walls and exploited other visual signs to record events. Okay, you might have studied them somewhere, maybe under history, like that. So before people invent or introduce letters, those who lived in jungle, in caves, they had painted stories actually. Such pictograms were independent of language. So we don't say it's a language, a kind of cartoon world in which anyone with knowledge of the lives of people, but without specific linguistic knowledge, could reconstruct the depicted story. You know, cartoons. A cartoon story. So no language is mentioned there, but still we can understand it. So then cartoon can be equally understood by anybody having an average knowledge and a brain. When shown to adult speakers, depicted stories can be told in Tagalog, Japanese, Arabic, Swahili, Vietnamese, Spanish, English, Indonesian, or any other language. Okay, so cartoons, the pictograms can be understood and read by people using any of these languages. Pictograms can be understood in any language because they are direct. Non-linguistic symbolization like a silent film or the road signs used internationally to indicate curved roadway or the availability of food and lodging. Actually, most of the people say English is the international language. And now the linguists, they predict there come an age. In that age, English is not the international language, sign language. The symbols will be the language. That's correct, actually. We can assume because like this, curved roadway, road signals actually. So if you have driving license, before you show your trials actually, you have to sit for the exam, driving exam. So there you have to remember all the road signs. And these road signs are very common all over the world. No language is there, just some pictures. And I will give you one more example, skull and two bonds across. Skull and two bonds across. What is the meaning? Skull and two bonds across the skull. You might have seen poison or else danger. Skull means mini oluwak, maricha manusya oluwak. And among the most popular icons now is used are the emoticons. Emojis කියලා අපි කියන්නේ. Emojis, happy face, sad face, surprise face. That is very common in social media. When we write messages, when we send SMS, we use these emoticons a lot. And that are common in email correspondence, not only email, social media. Okay, that is before writing. And now, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very lengthy description, but content is very easy for you to understand, I suppose. Speech and writing are related in different ways to the world they symbolize. Actually, speech and writing, they are interconnected. Speech directly represent entities in the world, things such as the sun, the moon, fish, grain, light, and height. Writing represent the physical world only indirectly. Okay, so then when we talk about the things, it's very direct. But when we write, it is indirect. Okay, so they don't take these things very seriously. When we tell something, it's direct. But when we write something, it's not direct like speaking. A written sentence such as Meg caught 3 fish is a secondary symbolization in which the written signs represent the spoken words, not the entities and activities themselves. Always writing is secondary. That means secondary task, second task. Speaking is the first. Writing has certain advantages over speech, but writing has advantages than speaking. Although it generally takes longer to produce than speech. Talking is very quick, but writing is not like that. It can be read and understood more quickly than, much more quickly than speaking can be heard and understood. But actually, when we read something, to read, there should be something written. When we read something, it can be understood very easily rather than hearing and understanding something. Writing in correspondence or books or on a cave walls endures longer than non-recorded speech, and if published has a great reach. Okay, so then writing, it has a great publicity actually. Because lots of people can read it again and again. But a speech is not like that unless it is recorded. Nowadays, facilities are there. We can record speeches and listen to it again and again. But in the past, you just imagine where the recording facility was not there. If somebody talks something, that's on the spot only. But if somebody writes something, later even we can read it. A message on a blackboard can be written after its author has left the room, not so for a spoken utterance. Okay, that is easily understood. Next, signing, I have highlighted. Oh my God, what happened? I'm sorry, the screen. I just wanted to highlight this, bold this, sign. Got to do this, so okay. Now we spoke about writing one mod. The second mod is signing. Okay, read that. We are talking about 3 modes of language. I'm sorry, we spoke about 2 modes actually, that is speaking and writing. I have put both together. When I share the slides, I'll edit it. Did you finish reading?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, signing. The third mode of linguistic communication is signing. The use of visible gestures to communicate. And you know what sign language is? Sometimes when you watch news telecasting, you can see at the corner of the TV screen, there is a person using his fingers. He's doing something. That is something called sign language, actually. Those who cannot hear, those who cannot talk, they can communicate using this sign language. To accompany their talk, speakers often use gestures and facial expressions to convey meaning in support of oral communication. So they can't talk, so they use hand gestures, fingers, and then facial expressions to communicate. But signing can be used as the sole means of accomplishing the work of language. Signing can be used as the sole means of accomplishing the work of language. Okay, this can be used as the only method of language. American Sign Language, ASL. American Sign Language, the principal sign language of North America, is used by somewhere between 500,000 and 2 million singers. Okay, so then you may wonder, there are singers who use this sign language. Not all of them deaf. So all these singers are not deaf, but they still use sign language for singing. American Sign Language, as it is called, and similar sign language use manual signs and facial and bodily gestures, combining them under a system of grammatical rules to create an infinite number of sentences. Actually, you may not be having a very good understanding about this sign language. Even I do not have, but we know this sign language, it works better. That is also a linguistic communication, method of linguistic language communication. And you might have heard of a girl called Helen Keller. She was from America. There is a film also about Helen Keller. And she was blind, deaf, and could not talk. Okay, because she was not so when she was born, but because of some illness, she was blind, deaf, and she was dumb. Blind, deaf, dumb. Okay, but she became a world famous character. She studied well. That is through this sign language, actually. Okay, we go to the next page.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. The linguistic character of sign languages and the linguistic character of spoken languages such as Japanese and English are alike. Okay, so the linguistic character of sign language and the linguistic character of spoken languages such as Japanese and English. Sign language is not a spoken language, but both have same characteristics. for the channel of expressions. The only difference is their way of expression is different. But such sign language are fundamentally independent of any spoken language. Manual sign-in language like American Sign Language have three main components. Okay, hand shape and orientation with fingers are open or closed and how the palm is facing. And you know these things, they use fingers and then they open fingers and close fingers and they show the palm. Hand location with respect to the singer's body. Sometimes the hand is taken to the close to eyes, nose, mouth like that, and hand movement. And these things are there in sign language. We have to end with a particular place. Okay, this one. Do human alone have a language? That's a very good question. Oh, sorry. Not that. This one. So we have come to an interesting area.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you observe animals in groups, it's obvious that they interact, that they communicate with one another. Interact means they communicate with one another. Okay, so they should be in groups actually. When they are alone, they don't communicate. Dogs display fangs to communicate displeasure or aggression. Fangs means these dogs, they have two very long teeth. Okay, so that is fangs. They use that to show their displeasure. or aggression. When they are angry, they use these fangs. Male frogs attract female frogs by croaking. Croaking is the sound made by frogs. It's only natural to wonder how the forms of communication used by animals differ from human language. Okay, actually there is a difference between how animals communicate and how human beings communicate. Actually, that is natural, because how a dog communicates is different from how a bird communicates. The same way, how a man communicates is different from how animals communicate. We sometimes speak of porpoises. Porpoises means, how do we call, in Sinhala we call muhudu ura. Porpoise. I don't know whether you got the idea that is a kind of creature in the sea. Muhudu ura. Then chimpanzees, gorillas, dolphins, whales, bees, and other animals, as though they had language systems similar to those of humans. So they communicate very nicely. Doubtless, all species of animals have developed systems of communication with which they can signal such things as danger and fear. Okay, they have their own system. When there is a danger, they communicate. When there is fear, they communicate. I suppose you all have seen crows, kaputo, how they communicate. So then whenever they see something eatable, so they make noises. And after hearing those noises, other crows come to the place. That's their way of communicating. And we now know a good deal about how and what bees communicate. And bees, they have a nice way of communicating actually. And they know how to invite other bees to a place where there is nectar. In recent decades, chimpanzees have been taught to use signs. Okay, let's forget about chimpanzees. Think about the dog at your home or the cat at your dog, how you have trained them to communicate. So we can understand even animals, they have a way of communicating. They have their own language. Okay, we can discuss these things in detail. Now the time is up actually. We'll see how many things are remaining, how animals communicate in their natural environment. Can chimpanzees learn a human language? There's little, we can complete it next day. Okay, otherwise it is too much. Is it okay?
It's okay, ma'am.
Okay, I will be sharing these slides with you. Okay, and don't worry, give me some time. By tomorrow morning, you can have these slides. Okay,
Okay, ma'am.
shall we wind up the session? I'm happy at least there are 4 students listening to me, but about others, even Mr. Rishad was telling, they totally depend on the recording. But you people are lucky listening to a 3.5 hours recording, that 2.5 hour recording. I don't know. I can't imagine. Okay. Anyway, we'll meet again at the session, maybe next month, or yeah, maybe next month. Okay. Till then, take care. Good night.
Thank you,
Okay,
ma'am.
ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.